Indian web design. It's cheap, but it works. Here's why. Take a guess. What do you think this website is used for? This is the homepage for the State Bank of India. With over 500 million customers, it is the largest bank in India. And this is the website they use. Why?
India as a market, I think, works on rich content where we want information.
It's really cheap. I don't know how they managed to do that.
In this video, I refer to cheap as financial affordability. Looking at the tech and web design history of India, we'll answer these questions. I mean, does a website still need to look good if it works? Okay, it's time. With 1.44 billion people, India is now the most populated country on Earth, which means a poorly designed software in India can cost up to millions, even billions of dollars. So the design has to work. But here's the thing. In India, there are 36 entities split into 806 districts, each with their own unique culture and demographics. That's a lot of districts. How can someone create an effective website that works for everyone, yet keep the costs low? To understand how we got here, we gotta go back a few years. It's 2005, and you're a teenager in Bengaluru. You receive your first phone, the Nokia 1100. You're a teenager, so you play with it, chuck it at a rock, you get scared, and when you go pick it up, you noticed a weird thing. The rock broke, but the phone was in one piece.
The Nokia 1100, it is indestructible essentially. You could throw it anywhere and the other thing would be destroyed.
That's Shivam Gupta, a Google UX designer who grew up in India, now based in New York City. He explains that between the popular tech devices, laptops, PCs, tablets, phones, in India, the mobile phone rose to the top. Indeed, according to sources, 78% of market share exists on mobile phones in India, compared to 57% in USA. Just like China, affordable smartphones flooded the Indian market.
Prices came down and all of these different brands, not your big brands like Google, Apple, Samsung, but other brands that came into the market that were offering cheaper smartphones.
And this means one thing. Tech became accessible. All of a sudden, people from a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds could access the internet, which means by the 2010s, companies adapted to this shift by designing websites for mobile phones.
For example, a large chunk of the Indian population skipped the desktop phase.
That's Parag Gupta, a Google UX designer based in Bengaluru, India.
Their first internet device was a mobile phone, because of which you would find a lot more design focused on a mobile view rather than a desktop view.
And these mobile view websites aren't just gonna appear out of thin air. We need designers to make them, which means a booming tech economy.
What do you do?
I am a UX designer.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a UX designer.
You guys do?
I'm a designer, UI UX designer.
What did you study and how do you get a job?
Let's check my bank account. Have you tried our new simplified and intuitive business banking platform? I have not. Let's see. So, I've been going to the same bank for the past 20 years, and the website looks like this. Bro, it's 2024. What is that? Why do some websites never change?
India as a market, I think, works on rich content where we want information. We don't want to go around and dig for it. We don't want to go and search for it. We want it upfront a lot of times. And that's where I think websites play a great role because they can just lay out everything up in front.
But turns out, this maximal design often works well for South and East Asian users. Look at Yahoo Japan. There is a lot going on here, but based on scientific research, this makes sense. Both India and Japan have high context cultures, which communicate in ways that are implicit, nuanced, contrasting low context cultures where you would be direct, to the point, and explicit. This study looked at how people of high versus low context culture perceived and enjoyed ads of different complexity. And when both participants saw the same complicated looking ad, the person of higher context culture enjoyed it more and was like, it's not that complicated, compared to the lower context culture, who enjoyed the ad less and perceived it as more complex. So in a high context culture like India, it's actually okay if some websites look like this. So when you learn things like progressive disclosure, Think, do I need to progressively disclose? Do I need to present things one at a time slowly, when sometimes it's better to give it all at once? And although this website might seem outdated, or some might even say ugly, if it works, why fix it? Not just in Indian web design, but we often see this in the public sector, banks, hospitals, public facilities. These entities have limited resources and they need to serve a ton of people. So not much money can be spent on how a website looks. But that doesn't mean this doesn't serve the fundamental purpose of getting people to where they need. Users have adapted to this design, and actually the last thing you want to do is change it. In this case, familiarity might be more important than a new modern design. And honestly, sometimes it's the same for Western designs. For instance, Reddit. It's low-key kind of ugly. It's not the cleanest design. There's a lot going on. We've got 3 columns with lots of information, but it gives us the juice. So we don't care. Users will adapt. I'm curious, what do you think about this? The fact that some of these websites are just not updated, but they still work. Also, there's so much diversity in languages, literacy level, age, tech skills, and socioeconomic status in India that if they change a design that's used by a lot of people, it takes people time to adapt. Speaking of socioeconomic, India has been able to keep the cost of technology really low.
In India, data is super cheap. For about like the cost of coffee, you could get close to unlimited data in a month. Like it's really cheap. Like I don't know how they managed to do that.
With the Indian market being a price-sensitive economy, it makes sense why some companies would rather have a less modern but still usable design in exchange for a lower cost. Now, you clicked onto this video probably wondering how web design in India might be different from the rest of the world. But here's the truth. There is no one Indian design. India is incredibly diverse and different between regions, so we cannot generalize a design that works for the entire country. I mean, this is the case for all countries. Let's come back to this map. India has 806 districts. This is how geography impacts design. For example, color depends on culture. In many parts of India, white symbolizes peace and purity, and people would wear it at funerals or festivals like Holi. But in other parts of India, people would wear bright colors to funerals. Bright pinks, bright blues, bright oranges. So before you slap on a color gradient on your product, understand, what does that color mean for your target users? Another important factor is the user's access to technology.
India uses a tier system to classify their cities. Essentially, they have cities going from tier 1 to tier 6, and they're generally classified by population. That's the official classification. So a tier 1 city will have 100,000 inhabitants or more. Tier 2 city will have 50 to 100,000 inhabitants, and so on.
Tier 4, I guess, would be like a very small town. And so you have people coming from these places. They don't come from means, right? They don't have a good family name. They don't have connections. They didn't go to a good school.
Some users may not even have access to phones or tablets, so keep that in mind. Experience design is more than the screen. Think from a macro perspective. How do we make products that work globally? It's not an easy job. Think of it like this. In design, you have a main quest and side quests. The main quest is to design and build the actual website, and the side quests are understanding the users, understanding their culture when building products. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to design, and that's why it's fun. Instead of following a cookie-cutter design process, why are we using the Gestalt principle? Who are we really designing for? And why are we building this product in the first place? Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about all of this? Feel free to correct me, share resources. Treat this as an ongoing collaborative research project. As Roman King Marcus Aurelius says, everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth. When you're building something, whose perspective are you taking? And is that the only perspective?